and you're clear. And I said, can you say that in public? He said, not quite yet. So I walked around with that in my jacket for a long, long time. Jeremiah Denton retired, and only then could I get it released.
Okay, let me stop you for a second, because I'm familiar with the FALN bombing of 1983, and I don't think you were involved in that. Now, but what are your politics? How would you describe yourself and your political view of the world?
First of all, I am a capitalist with a heart, which means I like to make money for my friends and me. I don't like to live wealthy, but I like to live comfortably because I'm 80 now. I don't have to rush around scraping anymore. But the real job is I want you to listen to this. I have a group called Los Caballeros de Los Angeles, the Knights of Los Angeles. They are all a bunch of wealthy men, and we coalesce on certain days of the year. We all get together, we have a glass of brandy, and we go on what we call knight-errant campaigns. For example, the knight-errant is someone who works for the king, and he's got a castle and all of that. But if he knows that an old lady's land is being taken from her by even a royal, they go get him, take it back. And the king would give them a pass because he knew it was only going on their weekend. It wasn't something that they were reckless. They were doing justice, and they allowed it. And they existed until the 12th century when the French king wanted all their money, and he dispersed them and killed a lot of them. But most of the money and everything else went to a place called Scotland. And that's where it is to this very day. They have a Knights Templar building in London around a church called the Templar Church. All the history of all the knights and all the people. So I'm walking in the shoulders of those great men who did good deeds. And on this world, I kick open puppy mill doors. I will drag a liver-lipped truck driver who is saying he's going to charge $200 to open an old lady's front door or a lock on their car in Coronado. I just challenge them all. I do many other things.
So you consider yourself a righteous revolutionary, righting wrongs out there, right?
That's it.
There you
righting
go.
wrongs.
And I think of myself the same way. And a lot of people don't, but I think of myself that way, right? But okay, you're a guy out there. You're doing stuff now. You're let's see all the stuff around Flint. Well, let's start with this. Bill Ryder. Was Bill Ryder CIA?
No, he's a punk. He's an ex-cop from Ohio, a Vietnam veteran, suffered PTSD, had a huge cocaine problem, was on edge. He was a grenade with a 9mm. That's how volatile he was. All of his people under him were all, they killed their officers. They fragged their officers in Vietnam. They're all proud of it. So Bill Ryder was the first to say, my God, Alan Graham's got the power now. I have nothing. The first thing they did, Bill Mensa and him, called the FBI and said Graham was the bomber of that building, and we found some C4 on him, and we took it off him and threw it in the sink. So it was a lie. The FBI didn't believe it was a lie until I got Jeremiah Denton to talk to them off record, let's say on background.
Right.
So they could really find out who did it.
Real quick. Between Mensa and Ryder, were they just making a call to the FBI hotline, or they had a guy in the FBI they could go to?
Never had a guy in the FBI. Always with snitches on the outside making an anonymous call. But
okay.
The FBI knew who they were because they had the phone set.
Okay. Well, yeah, clearly, because we see, I have those FBI documents on the Patreon, in the free section of Patreon, Operative Report Patreon. You can see all the stuff in there about the attempted assassination of Bill Mensa, of Mitch Warbell, and all that kind of stuff. Now,
look, there was also, this was their stock in trade. That was Ryder's M.O. He would often drop a dime on anybody or everybody.
Well, it seems like the guys who are out there doing stuff, getting away with stuff, are always informants as well. They're out there talking to the cops every day.
And they are allowed to.
Yeah. All right. Now, with this incident with the Menser and Ryder, was this before or after the Cotton Club murder?
What happened was, one night in the basement, a guy called Jack Zwern, he brought $10,000 in $1 bills because we were going to. Well,
take your time. Catch your breath and take your time.
We had $10,000 in $1 bills.
There you go.
We were crushing them up because we were going to make with a big scene at the courthouse. We also had $10,000 worth of pennies, which we put in grain wheelbarrows. We wheeled them up to the front of the security building. We walked in with the dollar bills crushed up in plastic bags. By the way, there were no security back then.
Yeah, I know.
We walked in. The judge said, Did you bring the father? He said, yes, I did. And a beautiful hooker stood up and just dropped them all on the floor as per my instructions. The judge lost it. He said, pick them all up. I'll take Mr. Flint and the rest of his group upstairs. They will unfold them. And that's what we did all day. In the meantime, I ordered shrimp and lobster and pizza and champagne, and we brought it all in and had a lovely Mad Hatter's party, and the feds joined us. Halfway through, because we were all getting tired, for $5,000 worth, somebody spilled a little champagne. They got one of the dollar bills wet. And we all looked at it. They were flat. So we just dipped them all in water. And it went like clockwork. They were all flat and wet. But they all went in. And they were unraveled. So.
Well, okay, but my question, though, the Cotton Club murders, was that before or after this incident with Ryder and Menser trying to take you down and calling the FBI on you, planting the C4?
Cotton Club murders in the year before, I believe, in 81 or even 80. I'm not sure. You'll have to look it up. But before I came into it, I already knew what they'd done, believe me. I already knew, and that's how I convinced Flint, let me take the power of attorney, let me bring my people in, put some real safety measures in here. And we did.
Okay, so then you're saying that Flint and the other bodyguards and security people were aware of the Cotton Club murders before Menser was picked up?
When did you see the Cotton Club murders revealed?
When did I see what?
That the Cotton Club murders were revealed.
Oh, I don't remember, but I remember seeing, watching on the news and seeing Roy Raiden, the New York City producer, found dead, yeah.
No, as I say, nobody knew the security guard. I already knew Ryder's snitching background, that's all.
Right.
When, in 1984, or even 85, that's when Bill Ryder was so broke, he turned snake on Menser, Marty, and the other guy, forget his name. They're all doing life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Right.
As you know, or you don't know, one of the cousins is working with me on a couple of other stories surrounding Flint. You know him.
I'd love to interview him, too, if I could. If you could arrange an interview with him, I'd love to talk to him. Menser heard my show that I did about him. We did a couple shows about Menser, and he heard them in prison. He said he enjoyed them. So, who knows? Well, let me ask a question. Back to Bill Ryder for 1 second. Bill Ryder went to the cops, and he says, hey, I loaned these guys my gun. They went out and committed a murder with it and brought me the gun back. He gets in no trouble for that?
Listen what happened.
Okay.
He told the feds, I've got some information on it. They didn't believe him. They thought he was just doing like he did before. Turns out they said, okay, if that's true, let's get him on tape again. And Ryder went with a wire, and he said, listen, I got a contract to kill Alan Graham. I want you to come on a mission with me. And they said, fuck yeah, we'll get out and get more money. And he said, sorry for swearing.
It's okay.
I have I have Tourette syndrome.
Yeah.
Where I involuntarily speak vulgarities. I'm lying through my teeth, but I slipped up there.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry. Okay. So he went to them and said, listen, are you sure you can handle this one? Because Graham's a wily people. He's got people all around him. And they said, we're going to use Plan X, which they all knew. I didn't. But they knew what it meant together, so they could talk in code. And so he said, tell me what happened out there in the desert. And Marty said, we blew his face off, and all was left was a stalk of his head, and we left him out in the desert. And laughed and giggled and laughed. Ba-da-boom. On tape. Confession.
Now, on that, I've heard that confession, and they say that they shot him 13 times on Friday the 13th. Did that actually happen?
That's it. Yes. Can you imagine the terror of that man who was picked up at Cotton Club and driven all the way out to the desert, knowing that they were going to kill him?
Well, Roy Raden was no nice guy, though. You know what I mean? Like
scumbag.
Yeah, he was a piece of work, okay, and I couldn't think of a better end for this character. What about the story about you say Maury Terry found a Bible out there that was open to a certain passage? Do you believe that, or you think it might be some people will question it?
Larry Flint?
Maury Terry, who wrote the book The Ultimate Evil, and he describes the murder of Roy Raden, and he had a lot of information about Roy Raden being involved in snuff films. He says he went out to the scene of the disposal of the body in that canyon, and he found a Bible that was open to a certain passage.
Nice little fluff. Not true.
Don't believe
Bullshit.
it? Gotcha.
No, sir.
What about...
Wait a minute. Listen to this.
Yes.
It's lying out there at the murder scene. It's out in the desert. The prevailing winds are constant. And he's out there in the wind, because it was a little in the higher desert. Those pages would have been blowing back and forth and not stopping.
Well, not if it was upside down. If the book was upside down, it would hold the pages. I don't know. I don't know the conditions.
Oh, you mean he turned it over?
I don't know. I don't know. It could be, though. I'm just saying it's a possibility.
Don't believe it.
Yeah. Now, were you ever involved in conversations with Menser, Marti, Ryder, where they discussed openly the Cotton Club, the murder of Roy Raden?
No, but they couldn't shut their mouths with other stuff. They just couldn't shut up bragging.
Well, let's stick to this for a minute. Did it ever come up anything about the Process Church cult? Or the Son of Sam murders was somehow connected to Roy Raden in this group?
Every single lunatic has got a theory. That's another theory.
So you have no information to corroborate that?
Certainly not.
Okay. What
was the murderer.
What do you know about the connections between Larry Flint Publications and High Times Magazine and Tom Forssad?
He supported them. He also supported the L.A. Free Press.
Okay.
He supported any radical, like he had his own magazine, which I oversaw, called The Rebel. And we printed stories in that no one would print. It was a great magazine. I'll get a copy sometime. Timothy Leary was one of the editors, and Frank Zappa was called to see if he wanted to edit. And he wrote back a letter. So he came to the mansion, talked to me, and he said, okay, I'm interested. I'll go home and I'll type out my things I need. He came back, said, dear Larry, I will leave at least $1 million in cash and a completely free hand. So a letter came back by messenger from Zappa's house. I opened it. I read it. I resealed it and gave it to Flint when he was gambling in the basement. He looked at it, he opened it up, he read it, and he looked at me, and he just crushed it like that. So that was the end of Frank Zappa, his ego.
back up for a second to High Times Magazine and Tom Forsyth. Tom Forsyth was a marijuana smuggler and salesperson, and he also had a meeting with Robert Evans, who was involved in the Cotton Club murders. He brought us some cocaine.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Right.